What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another edition of Coding with Robbie. As always, I'm your host, Robbie, and today's video is going to be all about Shopify contact forms. You're going to learn the skills needed to go into any theme's contact form and add new fields, remove stuff, customize it. We're going to learn this by creating a contact form from scratch, and ours is going to be pretty cool. It's going to allow you to add new fields through customized theme. You'll be able to reorder them, and it's going to be very flexible. So if that sounds good, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. So first things first, let's take a look at the default contact form section that ships with Dawn. So I got the contact page pulled up right here. And if we click the contact form section over here, we can see all the settings for it. You can add a heading, you can change the size, maybe edit the color scheme or padding. But that's about it. You can't customize these fields at all. You can't remove phone number or add something completely different. There's no customizability on this section. So we're going to do it better today. We're going to create a brand new section that allows us to add our own fields and will be a lot more customizable. So let's go back. I'm actually going to go in a new tab and let's check out the code for that section. So I got my Dawn theme right here. I'm going to hit the three dots and go to edit code. And then on the file list over here, we can search for contact. And we have this contact-form.liquid, that's the section file, so let's click into it. And we got some styles up here, we got some with wrapper stuff, here's that heading text. And then down here is where the form starts. So here's the start of the contact form, we got the success messaging, the error messaging, and then here's all the fields down here. So here's name, email, phone number right here, and the body, and then a submit button at the bottom, and then the form ends. And this is all hard-coded fields, so you can't customize it at all. So we could edit it right in here, but I actually want to start from scratch, so we're going to build a whole new section. So to do that, we'll go add new section. It's going to be of type liquid, and we'll call it custom contact form. Hit done, it's going to create the section file. And right here is where we put the name of our section. So I'll call mine custom contact form. For settings, we'll just leave it an empty array, but we'll add a comma after so we can add a presets section. And this is also going to be an array. And make sure to put presets there. And it's going to have one preset inside of it that has a name. And for name, we'll just name it the same thing as the section. So custom contact form. I'll save that, and then let's just go up to the top and let's just do an H2 and we'll say contact. So now we should have a valid section that we could add to our page. So let's actually add that now. So let's go back to customize theme, which I have right here. I'm going to refresh so our new section shows up. And then right here in template, I'm going to go add section and search for custom. And we find our custom section right here. So let's add it to the page. And it says contact. Let's actually reorder this so it's at the top. At the top of the old contact form, which we're going to remove right now. And let's just hit save. So we got our new section rendering on the page. And now we're going to start building it. All right, so let's go back to our code now. I have it right here. And here's some documentation I want to show you. I'll link this in the description. But this is how to add a contact form to your theme. So yeah, we saw it in the example section we looked at, but you have your form tag. Here's the default error handling, and then we have a bunch of fields, and yeah, the only required field is email, so everything else can be whatever you want, and that's pretty much it. So let's give it a try. Let's go back here, and below our heading, let's do a form. So we go, hey, we're going to do a form. We specify what kind it is in these quotes, so it's going to be a contact form, and at the bottom here, we're going to need end form. And now in here, we can populate it with the stuff we want. So let's go back to that documentation. And I'm going to copy this top line, which is what shows the form errors. So say you forgot to fill something out and you submit it or something's incorrect, it's going to show in here. So let's just copy it and paste it at the top here. And then below here, let's add our first field. So let's go div. We'll just wrap it in a div and we're going to have a label. So for this first one, we'll just go, hey, we're going to put our first name. And then below this, we're going to put a form element. So we could do an input, we could do a text area, we could do a select, and there might be a couple others I'm missing. But for now, let's just do an input. And an input has a type. So just for normal text, you'll probably just want to do text. So I'll leave it like that. And here's the important part. Every field in your form has to have a unique name. So let's go name. And then each name has to start with contact. And then you put brackets, and you can put whatever you want inside of the brackets, just no spaces or any weird characters. So normally people just separate words with underscores, and usually they do all lowercase. So let's go first underscore name. And then we could add a placeholder here if we wanted. So let's go placeholder and maybe John Smith. And what else? We want an ID. So we're going to add a unique identifier to this input. So let's go ID is equal to. And for that, I'll just go first underscore name. And then we end it like that. So let's save this and see what we get. And there we go. We got our first name field with John Smith. So let's go back now. Let's add a submit button at the bottom. So I'll wrap it in a div again, and we're going to go button, type is equal to submit, and then inside of there, I'll just go contact us, and close it, save it, and now we have a submit button. So let's go back and check it out. I refresh, and now check it out. If I submit this, it's not going to work. It's going to go, hey, email is invalid, because email is a required field on contact forms. So let's add an email field. We'll go back, and let's just copy all this. And for this one, we're going to go email, so I'll change it right here. Contact brackets, inside of there, I'll put email. Placeholder, I'll just go maybe John Smith at email.com. And then for ID, I'll go email. And the purpose of this ID is so that we can link it to the associated label. So let's do that real quick. So we have ID first name, and then to link it to this label, we go for, and we put the ID of the field. So first underscore name, and we can do the same thing over here. So for email, and now let's go back to our page, refresh. And what that did is now when we click the label, it's going to select the associated field. Before it wasn't doing that. So now we have that email field, so this should be a valid contact form. So let's give it a try. So we'll go Robbie is my first name, and my email is codingwithrobbie@gmail.com. And I'll go contact us. And we don't have any success messaging, but it looks like it went through. So let's check our email. And here it is right here. So we got first name and email. So let's add some more fields to this now. Let's go back. And maybe we want last name, so let's put that up here. And we'll get to some more custom types in a second. So last name. Gotta change it everywhere. It's kind of annoying. Last name. I don't know why the placeholder for first name has a last name. So let's get rid of that and just put Smith on the last name. So let's see. We gotta change it right here. And in the label, so last name, all looks good. And let's put our message field down here before we get to the custom ones. So for that, we'll do a label, and we'll go message. And then for message, you're not going to use an input. You're going to use a text area, which is a element for kind of like a paragraph of text or a lot of text. So to do that, we go text area. It's kind of weird, but for text area, you need a closing one like that. And then we add these same attributes inside. So let's just copy all of this. For text area, we don't have a type. And then right here, we'll put message. And for placeholder, I'll just put type your message. And then for ID, I'll go message. And then we'll change it in the label also. We forgot the for, so let's go for is equal to message. Let's go check that out. We'll go back, refresh, and now I got a message field. So now let's add some stuff you wouldn't typically see in a contact form. So maybe you want to have an order number. You could do it the same way. So I could just change it everywhere again. And maybe we have order type. So let's go in here. We'll call this order type. And for order type, let's get crazy and do a select field. Order type right here, and instead of an input, we'll do a select, which has name. Remember, it starts with contact, and then your actual name goes within brackets. So order underscore type, And for select field, you have to have options inside it. So let's just go option, selected, value, and we'll go product. And then maybe we have a second option, which is, I don't know, bulk order. So let's save that and see what we got so far. We'll go back. Now we can put our order number. We can specify what type of order it is. And I actually forgot to remove the selected attribute on the second one. I want product selected by default. And let's add our ID here. Maybe there's a checkbox if it's an urgent contact issue. Let's put that at the bottom here. So let's go div, and we're gonna go input type. And for this one, you can see all the different types right here. We're gonna do a checkbox. And for name, it's gonna be contact, brackets, and then we can name it whatever we want within the brackets. So I'll just go urgent. And I'll close that up. Let's give it an ID also. So ID is equal to urgent. And then let's add a label below that. So label for, and it's for the urgent field. And then in here, we'll just put, this is an urgent issue. Close that up. Let's see how that looks. So let's go back to our page now, and I'll refresh. And now we got this checkbox. This is an urgent issue. And I think you get the idea here. You can add as many fields as you want. And if you're not sure what the different types are and everything, these are just HTML form elements. So you can look at it here. They'll give you a bunch of examples of all the different stuff you can do. And just one thing to know is you can't do file uploads. Shopify doesn't support that. All right, so now we're going to do the success and error handling. So let's actually take a look at the default contact form section. And if we look at the top of the contact form, you can see they go, hey, if the form was posted successfully, show a success message. Otherwise, show the errors. So let's actually copy this if-else statement. And we'll bring it over to ours right above the form.errors. And let's just get rid of all the content they gave us, leaving only the if-else. And then I don't like these little dashes. I'm going to remove them. And then, hey, if the form was posted successfully, we'll go, your message has been sent. And then if there is an error, we'll display the error tag right here. So that looks good. Let's try this out. Let's go back to our form. I'll refresh, and I'll put my first name. I'll put a last name, and I'll say it's urgent, and I'll leave email blank so it errors out, and we'll go contact. And if you're developing this a lot, you're gonna hit these pages where you have to verify you're human. So let's do it real quick. There we go, submit. And we get, hey, the email is invalid, but one thing I wanted to point out is that the fields are being cleared. So really we want whatever we enter to persist across the page load. So how do you do that? I'll show you. Go back to our form, and we have to go on each one of these fields, and we have to go value is equal to, and we're gonna go if form dot whatever the name of the field was. So this is first name. First underscore name. So if there is a first name already, we'll put that in there. So form.first name, and then end if at the end. So now, hey, if there is a first name already, it's going to put that in there by default. And we're going to do this for each field. So I'm going to skip over the duplicate one. So last name would be exactly the same. Order number would be exactly the same. The select is going to be special. So on select fields, you add the selected attribute to the selected option. So to do this, we would check right here what's selected. So we go if form.order type. And how can we do this? Is equal to product, which is the value of this option. If that's the case, we add selected. And if, and then we'll do the same thing on bulk below. So let's copy this. If form.order type is equal to bulk, then we'll add selected. So that should fix it for the select tag. And then coming down, we also have to do it special on this checkbox. To do it on a checkbox, you add the checked attribute if you want it selected. So to do this, we'll go if form.urgent. If that exists, we'll add it, and end if. And now it should persist across submission. So let's try this out. Let's go back here. I'll just load the page again. I'll put my first name. And remember, I skipped last name and order number. For this, I'll go bulk, and I'll make it urgent. I'll go contact. It's going to ask me to do this again. There we go. That looks good. Verify, submit. And there we go. Robbie stayed, bulk order stayed, and urgent stayed. All right, so now the last thing we're going to do in this video is make this section customizable so we can add our fields from customized theme instead of manually doing it down here. So if you are watching this video and you just want to add a field to your contact form, you can just go in the default one right here and you can just add it within this HTML. But we're going to make a better version of this over here, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is add a setting for this heading. So let's come down here and then let's go to settings and we'll add a new setting. It's going to have type text. And then for label, we'll go heading text. And then for ID, I'll just call this heading. And if you haven't seen my video on Shopify sections, I recommend you go check that out. I'll explain all this in much more detail. But for now, we added that heading setting, so let's utilize it up here. Let's do an if statement. We'll go if section.settings.heading. If that exists, we want to show this heading. So we'll put end if below it. And then instead of always showing contact, we want to show whatever they typed into that setting. So let's replace that with section.settings.heading. And that fixes the heading issue. So now we're going to do these fields. So I'm just going to paste it in. It's going to take too long for me to type it and you watch me. But I'll paste it in and go over it. So for repeatable blocks and sections, you use blocks. So we're going to create a block called input. Type is going to be lowercase input. And then this block is going to have settings for pretty much each piece of this input. So we have one for the name, one for the placeholder, one for the label, one for the type. And this last one's supposed to be ID. So let's fix that. So we got 5 settings. So now let's use these above. So we're going to do a for loop to loop through all the blocks in our section. So we're going to go for block in section.blocks, end for. And then within here, we're going to check, that should be a for. Within here, we're going to check what the block type is. So we'll go if block.type is equal to, and we called ours input, all lowercase, and end if. So now we're going to put our block code within here. So let's copy this right here. We'll paste it in, and now we'll use the block settings for all the key details in here. So for the for, that's going to be the ID, the block.settings.id, and I'm just going to copy this so I can paste it in easier. And then within here, it's going to be the label, so block.settings.label. And then for type, it's going to be the type, so block.settings.type. And I'll start breaking this into multiple lines. For name, we're going to put the name within the brackets right here. So block.settings.name. For placeholder, it's going to be block.settings.placeholder. ID is going to be ID again. And then for value, this one's a little tricky. Instead of using the dot notation there, we're going to do brackets. And then within here, we'll do block.settings.name. And we'll do the same thing where we're displaying it or putting it in the value over here. So form bracket block.settings.name. And that looks pretty good. Let's try this out. So let's go back to our customized theme. I was playing with this earlier. I'll delete what I did, save, refresh. So now in our contact form, we can add an input and it's going to add a field. So for name, we'll go age. Placeholder, I'll go 34. Label is going to be age. Type is going to be text. And ID is going to be age. And now it adds that new field, so we'll save it and let's make sure this works. So I'll go back here, I'll refresh, and we get that new field. So I'll put in random details. Let me put my real email. Contact us. It's gonna make me fill out this thing again. It's good. Submit, and it sent it. So let's make sure that worked. So I'll go back here, refresh. Here's a new submission, and we got that age right there, so it's working good. And now we just got to handle some of those special cases. So let's go back, and we'll go to this if else right here, and we're going to add another case. So let's go above this, and we'll go if block.type is equal to input, and block.settings.type is equal to checkbox. Then we're going to handle this case a little bit different. So now we have to change this to an else if. And now we can handle the checkbox case up here. So let's copy this. I'll paste it in. And now for checkbox, I want the label to come after it. And then let's see, checkbox type looks good, name looks good. There's no placeholder on a checkbox. ID looks good, and then instead of value, we're going to do the if else and put checked if it does exist. So let's go if form block.settings.name and if, and in here we'll put checked. So now it'll be checked if it's already checked. We can get rid of value. That looks good, and I forgot the if right here, so let's fix that. There we go. There's the checkbox, and then let's do the text area. So I'll do another case up top. I'll change the second one to else if, and this one's going to look for text area. And then I'll copy our bottom case down here again. And let's start doing this. So label looks good. Instead of input, we're going to have text area. And then type doesn't exist on text area. And then for value, we put it within it instead. So let's copy this part, get rid of value. Let's add our closing text area. And then let's paste in that value inside of it. And then ID and placeholder look good. I think that's good for text area. So let's try this out. Let's go back, and I'll refresh. And let's add another one. So let's go input again. This one's going to be message. Placeholder will be type your message, or just some random characters. Label will be message. Type will be text area, and that should trigger it to display different. It does. And ID will go message. That worked pretty good. And then let's add a checkbox. The name will be urgent. Placeholder. No placeholder, so we can just ignore that on this case. Label will be this is an urgent message. Type checkbox, and that should trigger it to display different. It does. ID will go urgent, and let's save that. And then let's go back to our section. Why am I going to VS Code? And now that we have this loop, we can just delete all these hard-coded ones at the bottom, leaving our submit button. We probably want to add a setting for this too. Let's do that real quick. Let's just copy this inside of settings. And for this one, we'll just call it button text. And for ID, I'll put button. And then up here, instead of contact us, we'll do section.settings.button. Save it, go back, refresh. We got our fields that we added, and our button is empty, so I made a mistake there. Didn't make a mistake, just didn't fill it out. So maybe on the button, we'll put a default value. Let's go back up here, and we'll go default. And by default, it'll have the text submit. So now if they don't fill out that setting, it'll always be populated. All right, so all is looking good. Let's just add an email field, and then we'll test this out one more time. So let's go back to customize theme. We will add another input. For name, we're gonna go email, placeholder, email address, john@email.com. Label is what's gonna be email address. Type will go email. ID will go email. Save that up. Let's go back to our page and refresh and give it a try. So we got our age, our message, it's urgent, and codingwithrobbie@gmail.com. Let's go submit. We got to fill out this guy again, so I got to get all the motorcycles. Submit. Your message has been sent, so it's working. Let's go back and check it. It's right there. All is populated. So the very last thing I want to show you is that there's no way to make any other fields required except for email on the Shopify backend, but you can do it client side. So if you did want to make your fields required, you could just go to them and just add the required attribute to it. And this will be a HTML5 required thing. I'll show you what it looks like. And you could hook this up to a setting to where, hey, if required is checked, add this attribute, but I'm just going to put it on everything for now. And now if we go back and we try to submit with stuff not populated, it's going to work. So we're going to refresh again and try again. And there we go. Now it says, hey, please fill out that field. And I fill it out. And then it goes, yo, you need the message. And it's going to tell you need everything. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know you're there. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.